Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Pitch Perfect. This is number two of four. And the reason it's number two of four is because we have four micro pitch events that take place. So perfect pitch perfect number two in preparation for micro pitch number two. Tonight is pitch perfect. 2 weeks from tonight will be micro pitch number two. If you have not registered to pitch, highly encourage you to do so. We do sell out every event. We are close to selling out for this one as well. Um, since you all are here tonight, if you register to pitch, and when you do pitch, as soon as you pitch, we will refund you the $50 ticket to pitch. We are not in it to try to make money from folks. We're just here to make sure that everybody shows up to pitch, because if it was free, people would be distracted, they would get scared, they would be nervous, they would find reasons not to do this. And because we do sell out every time, we want to make sure that everyone is given the opportunity to pitch that wants to. And I was just going through today, um, in preparation for another event that we're hosting. We're doing the State of Innovation address on April 1st, and just realized that we from a Start Peninsula standpoint, we have crossed the $75 million threshold for in terms of capital raised from past participants of Star Peninsula. So this is the on-ramp for you all to enter the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And the beautiful thing about this is that this is a validation event. You do not necessarily have to have customers. You don't have to have revenue. This is just, hey, I've got an idea. I want to see if this is an idea that is worth pursuing. So before you max out credit cards, quit jobs, and take out mortgages on your home, let's find out that this is an idea that you should pursue before you start getting yourself into trouble. So I encourage you all to participate. Um, this is a very low threat environment here tonight, just as it is at the micro pitch events. Everyone is good enough to be here. No one is too good. Egos were left in the waiting room when you were admitted in here today, and we all learn from one another. That's what makes this so special. It's Gary and I have been doing this for many, many years, and it's really cool when people come to this thing. They have an idea, and then they just learn how to jot this stuff down, and then to see what is created from a pitch standpoint. Super rewarding to see them go on to win, even more rewarding, and then to see them continue to succeed. Super rewarding. So I am Tim Ryan. I'm the executive director of Innovate Hampton Roads. Start Peninsula is one of the programs underneath Innovate Hampton Roads. Start Peninsula would not be possible if it wasn't for the funding of James City County, York County, City of Williamsburg, City of Hampton, City of Newport News, and Poquoson. They're the ones that contribute. They're the ones that put up the prize money. So it is thanks to them that all this is possible. If you live in the 757 within Hampton Roads, you're eligible to participate. So welcome to you all. Do you have any questions about the event itself? Now is the time. If not, we'll get into the deck.
Dan, it's pretty straightforward.
Cool, cool. I am gonna share my screen. All right. Well, for the purpose of this, this is a 3-minute pitch followed with a 2-minute question and answer period. I realized that I introduced myself, but I forgot to introduce Mr. Gary Plague, who has been doing this with me for many, many years. I handle the business side. Gary, why do we need to listen? Why should we listen to you?
I have the art stuff. I'm the artist guy. I'm the touchy-feely. Is it a heart tug? Yeah, that's why I have this mustache. Yeah, so I met Tim back in 2015, and we've been doing this since about then, I think, maybe 16. And yeah, I have a communication consulting business. I don't live in the 757 anymore. I live in the mountains of North Carolina. That's why this I live in Boone, which was one of the two cities that was kind of clobbered by Hurricane Helene. And but I live at 3,800 feet and look at mountains to the south, and so that's pretty cool. But Tim still lets me play with this thing, and then you'll see me in 2 weeks. I'll be the MC for the pitch contest, and Tim is the timer, and we have a great time with that. So yeah, and I'm here, as Tim says, he's the business guy, and he really he's pretty brutally honest about whether you're explaining this very well. And then I'm the color guy, so I'm looking for things that make it really feel and sound even better. So we'll both give you ideas, but that's my role in this whole thing. Tim is the entrepreneurial brains, and I'm just the color guy. So
Thank you, Gary. And with that, all that to say, we have seen and heard thousands of pitches. We've heard it all. We know all the excuses. We know you're nervous. You don't have to tell us. You don't have to tell the world that you're nervous. We get it. Um, we just have fun. Like I said, everyone's good enough to be here. Low
and we
threat.
don't always remember the names of the people who pitched at these things, but we remember the things that happened, both really rewarding and really spooky. So um, don't
And
be
I
one
will
of the
say,
spooky ones.
the rewarding things happen when you're here. It's those that do not attend
Who
is
do
when
not come
the
to this and we see disasters. So
so congratulations for being here. You all are going to do great, and I can't wait to see you in 2 weeks. With that, the elements of what we're going to do today, we're going to, or the agenda today, we're going to talk about the elements of the pitch, and then we'll give you the opportunity to ask some questions. And then if you want to practice your pitch, then Gary and I, with your permission, will give you feedback. And if anyone else that is attending has anything that they would like to add, they can do that as well. But this is where we all learn from one another, and it's a pretty cool part of what we do. With that, we will put 3 minutes on the clock. As Gary said, he will be the MC. He will introduce you. I am the timer. I have
Buzzer.
the uncomfortable role of telling people that they have to stop talking. But again, since you are here, Gary, you're muted. But since you're here, you're not going to run out of time.
because he has to tell them that when they're only halfway through. He goes, and that's time. And they're like, but I haven't even said the meaty part yet. But that's why you're here so that you don't do that. We're going to
Yeah.
help you so it doesn't happen.
And with that, the reason being that is so heartbreaking is because there is a rubric. The judges are scoring you on a rubric. And if you only get halfway through your pitch and you don't get through the rest of the rubric, or you don't attend pitch perfect and understand the rubric, then it's really, really hard to grade you on it. And guess what? We're discussing the rubric tonight. And the reason being, it's not a secret because you're going to need this wherever you go. As long as you're going to be in business, you're going to be talking about it. These are the things that you need to highlight and that you need to talk about. So let's break down these 3 minutes. And now, and you're going to quickly understand why pitching is complicated. It's a lot of information that you have to include. It's a short amount of time, and that people underestimate how quickly it goes. But I want you to start with an attention getter. And this could be a quote, this could be a statistic, this could be anything but your name. We do this on Zoom. Your name is in the bottom left corner of the screen. Prior to the event in 2 weeks, we're going to give you a fancy background. That background is going to have your name. So use that time to get people's attention. Then talk about your problem. There's the fancy background that Gary has that we were talking about. After you have that one-liner, state the problem. And if you don't have a pitch that is already created, in some cases that's better. for things like tonight, because then you can just write down the problem that I am solving is, and just write down some sentences about what is the problem. And we're going to break all this stuff down in further detail. But you'll talk about this for 50 seconds. And one thing that to ensure that you all understand is like this is not exact science. The rubric doesn't say, did the participant talk about the problem for 50 seconds? The rubric says, what is the problem? How big is the problem? So if you can do that in 40 seconds and you need 10 extra seconds for the solution, you can do that. You can borrow from other places, but this is just to give you an idea of what this 3 minutes looks like. So you state the problem, then you talk about the solution, and we're going to break these down even further as we go through this deck. Then we'll say you can state your name. I'm Tim Ryan. I'm the executive director of Innovate Hampton Roads. And then throw a company one-liner in there where we celebrate entrepreneurship and innovation across the region. Something that everybody is going to understand. It's short, it's punchy, and people are going to remember. This describes your business in one easy to understand sentence that everybody gets. Then you talk about your target market. Another 50 seconds there. And again, we're going to dive into this deeper in slides that are ahead. Then you have your closing. 10 seconds. What you can do there, maybe it's your company one-liner again, but this really is just some buffer time in terms of you can use it however you wish, but you can see that is your 3 minutes when you add everything up. So it's a lot of information, but if you structure everything that way and break those out into the three core elements, your problem, your solution, and target market, those are the things that you need to identify and talk about. And guess what? That's the rubric: problem, solution, market. And then the fourth category in the rubric is quality of the pitch. So you're here tonight, you're going to learn about the quality of the pitch and you are going to max out that score, I am sure. But that is it. But again, the problem that I'm trying to solve is this, my solution does, the people that I'm trying to sell to are, and then we just start breaking that down. Any questions? Gary, anything to add?
Nope.
All right, let's talk about the problem. Things to consider here. 50 seconds, don't go long. And this is just a classic area where everyone goes long. It just seems to be like a couple things happen. The biggest thing that people will do is they will hedge. And what I mean by that is when they're talk when they're talking about the problem, they're going to be like, how many people have suffered from this? And how many people suffered from this, and people suffered from this and this and this. And they try to include as many groups of people as they possibly can. And then they start describing that problem way too in depth, way too technical. So just I want you to pick one area. Maybe that generates the most revenue. Maybe that is the one that the product is closest to completion. Maybe that is where you have the most customers. Maybe that's where your first customers are. But pick the one thing and stick to that. I don't want you to hedge across multiple areas. But that is where people will go along when they over explain, they go too technical, the time goes really, really fast. People are visual learners. So I want you to think, when you think about this problem, I want you to think about it in a storytelling way. So like I would like you to introduce you to pick a name, so and so suffers from, and then you take, so think about that customer journey that you want to provide. If you have the most perfect, you have the problem, you have your customer, and if you could think of the best way humanly possible that someone takes that journey, set that up, and tell it in a story because people are visual learners and we've been doing that since the beginning of time. From the time that we were drawing on cave walls, like the visual learning is how it is done, and that is what you remember. To this day, Gary and I remember pitches from 10 years ago because they were visual and they told the story. So again, this is a story, and think about that story arc. Like we all are attracted to movies, TV, whatever the case is, there is a story arc that everything follows. So and so they encounter this problem. This is the struggle. Then they find the solution. Their life is then happy. And then, oh my goodness, this person's not alone. There's the whole village is now happy because we were able to find this solution and ride off into the sunset. And you're the one that's able to do this. So like telling that story is going to what ruminates with people. Numbers tell, stories sell. And then during that time, this is another area where people fall short is this is where you start demonstrating the size of the problem. We need to, what we're looking for is making sure that this problem is big enough to solve. We don't want anything that is super, super niche that nobody, like next to nobody suffers from this. I mean, so a corny example that I use is violin oil. There's the number of people that would need violin oil is very, very small. However, there's other things that everyone is going to use. Gary, anything to add?
I have a violin.
Yes, you do.
I buy violin oil.
How
So,
often?
well, not very often.
So that is what we mean in terms of that is the problem. So like think about those things when you're jotting down these ideas. For those, we said that we were going to record this. We were going to send this out to everybody that registered, everyone that then applies afterwards. Send an email to me, Tim at innovate757.org, pitching to win. That will give you credit for attending Pitch Perfect. So again, that way when you do pitch, we will refund you the $50 for the cost to pitch. We are not in this to make money. We just want you to ensure that you show up. Um, for those that are here
Would have
tonight,
delivered that more like the old password TV show. And the
yeah,
password is
pitching to win.
pitching to win.
That's right.
Okay, contestants.
You all have credit for being here. Zoom sends a nice report of who is here and for how many minutes that you are on this thing if you are not aware of what the Zoom reports look like. So if you think you can pop in for 1 minute, not so fast. All right, the solution, things to think about here, the innovation and the idea. So this again, like this is there is the application process. We're not looking for people to be like, hey, I'm going to be and this is no offense to anyone that might be a car insurance salesman. We want something that is innovative, something that is going to disrupt, something that has the possibility for high growth. But things to consider here is your audience does not know you. And the way that we describe this is it has to pass the mom test. It has to pass your a child test. If you really want to be humbled, talk to any school age, even high school, and talk and tell them about the idea, and they'll be the first ones to be like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Um, but your audience doesn't know you, and the other thing about that, if the audience doesn't know you, the judges don't know you, so you cannot think that they can fill in the gaps. They just don't have that ability to do so. So you really have to start from square one, and it has to make sense. Again, mentioned it twice now in 2 slides. Is the problem big enough? So like that is an area that is missed, and that is an area that is specific to the rubric. And this will also carry into the size of the market and the marketing piece. But is the problem big enough? How are you different? How are you better than what the current status quo is? So think about what people are doing. Why is that a pain point? And why is your solution better? And we want you to think about, are you 10 times better than what is currently being done? In order to change human behavior, you need it to be 10 times better, or else they're going to revert back to the way that they always did things. And the example that we always use here is, how is Uber able to disrupt the market? So before Uber, you were reliant on a taxi cab. You had to know the phone number. You didn't know where they were. You had no idea how long it was going to be. You had to have cash. The car was going to be junky. It was probably going to stink. It was just, there were so many things that you didn't know. Now all of a sudden, Uber comes around. It's an app on your phone. You know where they are. You know how much it's going to cost. There's requirements on what the vehicle should be. You know it's going to be safe. You didn't have to worry about tipping. You knew when you're going to be dropped off. So like you can quickly see this is 10 times better than what the status quo was. So it was very easy to change consumer behavior. And then why now? Why is now the time to do it? So like timing, there's a big philosophical question about timing and luck. But why now? Why is the market ripe for this now? Why do we need to jump on board with what your idea is now? And sometimes being early is worse than being too late. Neither of them are, it just the timing has to be right. Gary, what would you like to add?
I I think that I think what you said before is that people don't understand what you're doing. And when I was in IT, I would try to tell my mother what I did, and it had to pass the mom test. And we often think that everyone should know this, and everyone does not know this. And the way that we explain it when we are in our head, because we live in the technical space all the time, we forget that there are earthlings who do not understand and don't have the same vocabulary that we have in the space that we're developing. So that's the thing to remember as you're describing all of these things. And another thing to think about is is that when you're creating an explanation, what you're doing here is that you need to anticipate where the people in the audience, the judges, where they're going to get confused. And then you create your explanation so that they don't get confused. But you have to really look at it. Um, and I honestly think that I've been using AI a lot, and I'm not suggesting that you have it create your pitch for you at all. But when you've created your pitch and you finished it, if you give it some context before and then you put it in and ask it to ask you questions for clarification, it will. So if you teach it what you need it to do, it will do that. And sometimes that's a good way to, if you don't have friends that can sit down and just be with you and get inside your head, ChatGPT or another AI model can do that for you. And that may be very helpful as well, just to make sure that it's explained well and that it's getting it. But it'll help you. It'll ask you questions that, and you go, I never thought of that. So that would be
Right.
what I would say that helps with making sure that I'm explaining it well enough.
Because
To
the
your
th
point earlier.
to add on to that, when people are confused, they're going to stop listening to what you're saying because they're going to try to solve the question that is in their head. So we want to avoid that as well. And I think we get into that a little bit later, but
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Gary.
Yep.
The team. So things to consider with the team. This is the place to showcase your strengths. It's amazing to me how many times I'll see a deck that does not talk about the team. The team is everything. It is one of the three critical pieces of that. And so this could be number of years of experience, prior companies that you may have worked for. Do you have any patents? Do you have any certifications? Whatever the case is, when you're pitching, you're doing one of two things. You're either adding credibility or you're losing credibility. Talking about your team is the place where you are adding credibility. So I know for some people, myself included, it's difficult for me to brag about the things that I have done, but this is the time that you need to do it. You need to talk about why you are the ones to solve this problem. And like what we say here, I mean, like, and this is something that can't be faked. This has to be really, really authentic. But there's some people that you're like, man, this person is willing to live in a box under a bridge down by the river in order to make this thing work.
In a
And
van,
in a van. But I like box.
oh,
A box fan. Um,
a
but like,
freezer box.
why are you the ones to do this? I mean, like, and that it has to make sense. It can't be like, hey, I'm the one to do this because I thought about this first and it has the most earning potential and I'm going to make lots of money and my investors are going to be super happy. It doesn't work that way. Because as soon as someone comes up with a better idea, or as soon as you come up with a better idea, then you're going to go towards that. Why are you the ones to do this? A lot of times, what this comes down to is that, hey, I suffer from this problem. There was no solution. I could not wait any longer for a solution to be developed. So guess what? I developed the solution on my own, and I use this to solve my own problem. But why are you the one to do this? Another one that is often overlooked. Um, A lot of people, if you are a prior founder and it was not a successful venture, a lot of people like to hide their head in shame because they failed. Well, guess what? The things that you learned along that journey, you're not going to make those mistakes again. So wear that as a badge of honor in the sense of, hey, I was a previous startup founder. It didn't work. I learned from that and now I'm ready to go again. As an investor, I will invest in a second time or a third time founder who failed the first or second time before I would invest in a first time founder just because I know the things that they learned along the way. Super, super important. Don't sell yourself short. What else do I have to should be added about the team, Gary?
Uh, well, I think it's helpful when the judges know that I mean, it's okay if you're the only one, but if you do have people who are on your team that are helping you and their experience or whatever, that's great. That just gives more comfort to a potential investor to say, oh, the chance of it failing is reduced because they don't know how to do these things and they've got people that can do it. I think a lot of times we think that we have to show everybody that we can do all of it. I hire an accountant because I don't do accounting for my business. I can make an invoice. I don't and receive an invoice. I don't do the other stuff. And I think that in a business, if you're trying to do everything, you're going to do none of it well. So if you have a team that you can brag a little bit about, I mean, why not?
Yeah. And a team is plural. Highly recommend that you have a team. If you are a solo founder, you can say that you're a solo founder. However, have you either add, so again, this is a perfect example of anticipating confusion. So if you know you're a solo founder, highly likely there's going to be a question of how are you going to build out your team? What things what shortfalls do you have that you need to add? So by anticipating that, I'd be like, hey, right now I'm a solo founder. However, as I expand my team, I am looking for this skill set, or this skill set. It does not take a lot of time to do it. It informs the people that you are pitching to that you've thought about it. It's going to be addressed, and then you're building that credibility. You avoid the confusion. Life is good, and you can keep on pressing. But just where everything is today, teams of two, co-founders, two engines on an airplane better than one. One engine stalls out. You have a second engine to bring you down for the landing so you don't crash. All right, we're now moving on to the marketability piece. So things to consider here, identify your customer. This is where I want you need to know your customer so well that it builds so much credibility in terms of, Hannah, I'll use you in as an example because I know what you're doing, but like, and you know the demographic of people that are using micro transportation. There is a certain age demographic. They live in a certain place. They probably have a specific income range that they're in. So like, that demographic so well that when it comes to marketing and the people that you need to connect with, it's a no-brainer. You already have all of that. So like, and by knowing all that from the beginning, you have built that credibility to the people that you're pitching to. I want you to focus really, really small, and then you can expand. So with that, with micro transportation, I don't want you to be like, hey, I'm going to hit every single city that has a population of 150,000 or more. Like, hey, how about we start in Norfolk, Hampton, or Newport News, and then we'll expand as things go better and better, as opposed to trying to do too much too fast. So, again, focus small. And when you think that you're focused small enough, think smaller, even smaller again. And so that you can really, really concentrate those efforts in terms of where you want to go. Yeah, AI can imply, everybody can use AI, but like, is there a specific area that you're going to market to that really need that they're the ones that need this help? Again, it goes with the hedging kind of thing. Pick one and stick with it. How are you delighting customers? Maybe you don't have any customers, but you are building an email list, keeping those customers informed or potential customers informed how everything is going from a product development standpoint. If you do have customers, do you have a rating on Google, Yelp? What are people saying? This again, we're building that credibility here so that, and we're able to show that, like, hey, these people love what I'm doing. For example, you may want to build and open a Michelin star restaurant, but no investor is going to give you the money that is needed to do it right out of the gate. But if you start with a hot dog cart and you make the best hot dogs ever known to humanity, and you sell out within an hour of pulling the cart out onto the street, and there's a line wrapped around the block, then it's really, really easy to say, hey, I need some more money so that I can go from a cart to a food truck. But then the food trucks now, we did that. Now the food truck is selling out within hours every time we go, and we have a line of cars that follow us waiting for us to stop. As you're delighting these customers and as you're building that, and you know your customers where you even need to go to with this cart or with this food truck, it then makes it much easier even from a banking standpoint or an investor standpoint, asking for that money because you are now using that capital as fuel to make this thing go faster. So how are you delighting those customers and then hit on that? How is it growing? We start, two, 6 months ago, we had two customers. Every month, we've been able to double that. And now we're up to 32 customers. Again, this is a very early stage competition, if you will. It's not expected that you're making millions of dollars. It's not expected that you raised millions of dollars. If you did, you wouldn't be able to participate. So be honest. Don't fudge. Don't exaggerate. That's not going to do you any good. That's just not good either. What else, Gary?
Something that goes back to the earlier thing. I remember reading in something, I don't remember where I read it, but these people that they were making this pillow and they were trying to create the best pillow. and they went to like Bed Bath and Beyond and different stores, and they stood by the pillow counter. And when people came into the aisle looking for pillows, they surveyed them. They did little focus group things, and they asked them, what are you looking for in a pillow that would make it perfect for you?" And they gathered that data. And then so that's kind of like focus group research and things like that that you can do to help you identify your customer and know who they are. Oh, we're making a new pillow, and we've done focus groups, and we realize that there's a huge market for people who want a pillow that does XYZ. Who knows? But that kind of stuff is worth saying. We don't need to know how the study went. We just need to know that you did it.
Thank
If you
you.
don't have a product yet, but we researched the product.
Thank you
So
for bringing that up, Gary. That is huge. That is a common question from the judges. Have you talked to anybody? How many people have you talked to? Because sometimes, again, this is like anticipating confusion. Judges in their mind may think, there's no way this is going to fly. Well, guess what? It could be some old crusty judge, and you've got something that all the kids are going to want to do. And then when you say, man, I talked to 100 people, and then they referred me to 500 people, I've now talked to 600 people, and they can't wait for this thing to come out. Huge. Yeah, you've
there was
demonstrated
the
everything.
one woman from she was a student at William and Mary, and she was making a bar, some kind of a food bar, and she was canvassing the people in her dorm and people on campus, and she could refer to that and say that I've been selling these. Actually, I make them in the kitchen, and I'm selling them, and I have, you know, 200 people that buy them or whatever it was. And that's helpful for the judges to know. It's actually a viable product
Yep.
that you're actually making, even though you're not making $1 million on it, but it's where you start. So,
Yeah. And one thing, I love how we tag team because you remind me of things that I should have said. Go back to the team really quick. If you have mentors, advisors that you're working with, that could be part of your team as well. Adds more credibility as opposed to you doing this in a silo all by yourself.
mhm.
So don't forget about
In
mentors
fact,
and advisors.
that woman that I'm talking about, she needed a physician. And my physician when I was in Williamsburg was a functional medicine person. And so I connected them, and I believe that they were able to work together to talk about this product and how it worked biologically and all of that. And I remember my doctor was really happy to help her. And so, and maybe she added her to she didn't know her the pitch time, but it's anything like that is a resource for you. That's part of your team. Yeah.
Execution. Everything's about execution. Things to consider here. What is your why? Why are you doing this? Again, this was a lead into I suffer from this problem. There was no solution, so I had to build it on my own. But what is your why? What's going to get you out of bed in the morning to do this? Highs are high, lows are low on the entrepreneurial journey. The why is what's going to get you out of bed in the morning. This is something that can't be faked. This is something that is your true, authentic you. I am doing this because. I mean, like, and this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, if I do have to live in a box or a van down by the river, I'm willing to do that because my why is so strong. How are you going to make this a reality? So again, like, hey, my way to a Michelin star restaurant is from the hot dog cart to the hot dog truck to the a drive-through to a sit-down restaurant, and we're going to have the most fancy hot dogs that anyone has ever had. What is your plan? What is your roadmap? How are you going to get there? What are you doing today to make this a reality? Investors, they invest in people, not the idea. It just I hear so many good ideas, but when it comes down to it, I'm investing in the person because the person and the team is going to be the ones that get it done. And really, what that boils down to is that just what you're doing here, a validated idea is far outweighs just an idea.
And Tim, when Tim and I met when he was in a an incubator kind of space in Williamsburg. And I remember that framed picture you had on the wall. I think about it often, and it said, "The dream is free, the hustle costs extra." And that's the passion, that's the why, because everybody can dream of a great idea, but we want to know what the passion is. What are you willing to do in the hustle? The hustle is extra, and it costs extra. But the dream is free. And so I think the judges want to see that there's spirit in the hustle. So, yep.
Yep. And again, why now? I said it in a previous slide, but why now? I mean, like, when you think about Netflix, for those, maybe some of you don't remember, but there was a day that Netflix would mail DVDs in the mail before they would stream. If Netflix came out with their business plan saying, "Hey, we're going to stream videos to everybody over the internet," it would not have worked because there was not enough, the bandwidth wasn't there. So they had to start. And it was a big controversy when people had to move from DVDs in the mail to streaming. It was a big to do, but like, why now? Timing is everything. Um,
I
so
was so upset that I couldn't get video downstreamed on my dial-up DSL. It was really disappointing.
yeah, I mean, it was the same deal. Like Uber wouldn't have been, timing was everything for that as well. I mean, it's just a lot of things had to come into play for that.
Hmm.
So basic needs, we had that 10-second buffer towards the end of the pitch, and this is where this comes into play. Leverage your vulnerability as a strength. It is not a weakness. I get it. You're a founder. You need to show that you know what's going on. You have the answers. But the thing about it is, an infinite number of things have to go right. And just one, it doesn't take but one or two things for the wheels to fall off the idea. So you're going to need help. No one is expecting you to do it on your own. Lean into that vulnerability. Hey, I'm not a technical person. I'm looking for a technical co-founder. I need help with sales because I'm not a salesperson. Leverage that because people want to work with you. They want to help you. But if you don't share what it is that you need, and if you don't share how people can help you, they have no idea how to help you, and they're not going to. Not because they don't want to, but they just don't know how. And I just that's what I love about the entrepreneurial community is we're all here to help each other win.
Yeah, when I went off on my own, I was in corporate America for almost 20 years. And 28 years ago, I decided to start my own business. And there was no help. It was like the wild, wild west then. And there was no incubators, no nothing. And I remember a friend of mine said, "Gary, tell people what you need and they will help you." And it was really hard for me to come to grips with that, but I started doing that. And I had people they offered me help, and sometimes they offered me money help, friends and stuff, but I never asked for money. I just needed someone to believe in me. Or could you make this introduction for me? I'm interested in doing this work at this place. Could you introduce me to someone who's there that I could at least talk to somebody there? And they did. But if I didn't ask them, they didn't know how to help me. So, yep, totally
And
true.
this is not going away. I just did a talk earlier this week with an accelerator cohort, and part of that was the topic was investor communications, and part of your monthly status update for that you provide to investors once you have raised capital is what are your needs? Tell them what you need help with. So this is not going away. You're going to have to lean into this vulnerability from here on out. Um, and I know for me, as a mentor to many people, I'm just like, I'm very honest in the sense of it's like, well, if you already know everything, then what are you even asking me for? You're just wasting your time and my time if you're just going to, if you already know it, if you know it all. So, Gary, I think I cut you off.
That's okay. But I was just going to ask, but Tim, I'm being facetious here. But Tim, should I tell them everything that I need or only the things that make me look good that I need? I don't want to be pathetic.
Right. For sure.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, tell people what you need.
All
Or you
right.
can even do it by saying, I've done these six things and I need help with these three. And then we know you're not just
And a lot
asking
of times,
someone
yeah,
else to do the
a lot of
gig for
times
you.
it's introductions to so and so or something along those lines. All right. I'm going to give you some secret sauce. I just, just a different way of thinking about things. But if you don't identify the problem, then there is no need. Then what you have is a solution looking for a problem. So that is why that is part of the rubric. No problem, no need, no solution. That's telling me you do not have a product. If you don't have a market, then there's no way to grow because you have no idea who you're talking to. You have no idea who's going to buy it, and there's no way to grow. This is moving ahead a little bit because you're all going to advance into the next round, into the championship round in November. At that point, we're going to talk about traction. But and then at that point, if you don't have any traction, what I hear as an investor is that you don't have any customers. And again, looking ahead, no model, no money, because you have to make money somehow. And like this is just stuff to think about. Because a common question is typically when the judge hears you pitch, they're picking up what you're putting down. A common question, even though that is not part of the rubric, is what's your revenue model? How do you make money? So just think about that, and we're going to touch base on that in another slide when we talk about the Q&A. If there's no team, there's no execution. You need a team to execute on everything. It's really hard as a startup founder, startup co-founders. I mean, you're the dishwasher, you're the host, you're the cook, you do everything, but you have to have a team in order to execute. And then why we have Gary here is that if no performance, there is no memory. And we do 10 pitches quick 3 minute pitch, 2 minute question and answer period. Once that's done, we're moving on to the next one. And it's just boom, 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 boom. We do 10 pitches, deliberate, announce winners. All that is done in less than 2 hours. So you have to have a performance in order to have that memory. And again, reinforcing that with we are visual learners. We have to tell that story. We have to perform, and then you're going to be remembered. At the end of the day, you are working to achieve the flywheel, and this is a secret sauce and why so many people think that money is not available in this region because you need three things. You need to have a product, you need to have a team, and you need to have customers. When you have all those three things, you have a company that's going to grow because you have a product that's going to generate revenue. That revenue then generates money to put into the team. That team then improves upon that product to delight more customers, which generates more revenue that you can put back into the product, reinvest that back into the team to delight more customers. This is the flywheel that you need. This is where I want you to have your head as you move forward with your business, that you need these three things. If you don't have all three of those things, you just have an idea. And I'm sorry to be the one to be the bearer of bad news, but ideas are not worth anything. This is where everything this is what it is. If you have two of the three, we can work with you. So perhaps you have a product and you have customers, we can help you get a team. If you have a team and you have a product, we can help you get the customers. You can see we can fill in a missing thing, but if you're missing two or all three of those, it becomes really, really difficult. So this is the North Star that I want you all to be working towards. My portion is done. I'm going to move this end rant transition to Gary.
Yeah,
And
I gotta
Gary's,
go. See you guys. No, I'm
yeah.
kidding. Okay. Yeah, so these are things that I've learned over time that are helpful after watching some crash and burns and watching some really good stuff and seeing how people move ahead. And it also comes somewhat from my work as well. But uh, so the big question is, don't, oh, now you ruined it. It's like, how do you get
No one
when you're
saw it
when you're on
either.
the street? The guy's on the street in New York City, and he's looking for directions, and he says to somebody on the street, "Hey, how do you get to how do you get to Carnegie Hall?" And the guy goes, "Practice, practice, practice." So you can flip it now. There you go. So that's how you get there. And this is a tough one. Practice makes
Perfect.
no. Practice makes permanent. So perfect practice makes perfect. But if you practice the piano scales wrong over and over and over again, you will play them wrong every time. So it's making sure that you're practicing the right things and doing them so that they become second nature to you. That's really, really important. So one of the things that's going to be on the slide here is that we don't want you to start with a question at this pitch competition because it wastes your time. You only have 3 minutes and everybody's on Zoom and no one, everyone's been admonished to not to be on mute and not bother you while you're pitching. So if you say, how many people have ever flown in a helicopter and wait for 10 seconds while they raise their hand, you won't see them anyway. And so that is a good technique when you're doing an in-person presentation of some kind, perhaps, but not this event. So what do they say? A hammer is a great tool, except when you're fixing a watch. So, use the right tools for the right thing. So don't ask a question
And
and
that's
don't
where you can
start with
start with a statement. Only 10% of people have ever flown in a helicopter. Or if you're going the other way, 90% of people have done this. Start with that statement, not the
a
question.
startling statistic can work. Yep, absolutely. A story works, a brief story, maybe a story about you, but it has to be really brief. And the second thing that you don't want to do is start with your name because your name is going to be on that really cool backdrop that you saw. And I'm going to announce your name. And so they're going to know who you are already. You don't have to say your name. They're going to know. And it's on their rubric as well. They know that you're the next speaker, the next pitcher in line. So, and above all things, they don't even care what your name is yet because they haven't heard what you're going to talk about. And then they might look back at their sheet and go, "Oh yeah, that 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 Sally person was great. That was a really interesting thing." But they don't care who you are until you've gotten through your pitch, really, unless they know you from something else. We often talk about these things. It's not a presentation. I like to call it a performance. And it's also a story that you're sharing with the audience. You're telling the audience a story. Tim alluded to that earlier, that you got to have a storyboard of where you're taking us. We've given you the pieces, we've given you the stops where you need to hit every street corner in your journey. We've given you 4 or 5 of them, but really put it together as a story so that uh, you're explaining. And Tim mentioned this before. It's an adage that facts tell and stories sell. And when we get a story that goes with this thing, or it feels like a story, and we go back to our really basic human pre uh, uh, pre-literacy days. How did we get information? The village elders told us stories. Our parents told us stories. None of us could read or write, nor could our parents or our grandparents or anybody else. So we learned by stories. And so this is the same appeal to the basic human interest is to hear the story. And so if it feels like a story, that's a good idea. Um, I had a friend that worked as he was a speechwriter for a Congress for a senator, actually, and he used to always come to my class when I taught at William and Mary. And he would talk about you have to be willing to kill your darlings. Like you write the greatest speech for the senator, and then you look at it 3 more times, and then you go, "Why did I even write that?" And you want to get rid of it. So the thing is, you got it for every slide or a line that you talk about, you need to delete things that are irrelevant to your story. If it doesn't fit right now, it doesn't fit. And you really have to be willing to kill your darlings. If it's irrelevant or it doesn't do anything for it, then get rid of it. Um, does it enhance the story or does it take away the story? Is it, how is it helping? And if it's not, it's not. So this is kind of the bitter pill to swallow is that what I want, I'm creating, that's why we do this 2 weeks before. So you have plenty of time, hopefully, to do a draft and then go back and sleep on it and go, what was I thinking? Why did I think that was a good idea? You know, that's good for later. That's good for when somebody wants to know more about it. Um, and the other thing to think about is these judges get to ask you 3 questions. There's 3 judges. Each one gets to ask a question at the end. You get 2 minutes to answer the questions. If I were you, this is what you could use ChatGPT for as well, or AI for, is to say, here's my pitch. What kind of questions would a judge ask me in a pitch competition that I haven't covered? And it may give you questions. Think about things, especially questions that would scare you to death, and go, yeah, I'm hoping nobody asks that. Well, hope is a terrible strategy because someone's going to ask, right? So think about what are great questions that somebody might ask me that I would have to really think about because I don't have time to think about it. I only got 2 minutes to answer. So, and the final thing, which I can't tell you at the pitch, I sometimes say it before we start. If you get 3 questions, and then you hear all 3 of them, you write them down, and then when you start talking, Tim gives you 2 minutes to answer them. You finished answering them, those 3 questions, you finished answering them in a minute. Well, you have a minute left. And oftentimes we'll all sit and look at each other for a minute and it's silent. It's like, that's crazy. So what could you add that's not part of the main pitch in the 3 minutes? What could you add in this 2 minutes if you have some time left over? So think about that as well. Have some reserve items that so more details you could share if you answered your questions early and you had some spare time would be a brilliant strategy. Again, based on what Tim and I watch, and we're like, why did the person have a minute left? And we all looked at each other for a minute. That's crazy, you know? And Tim and I have seen people win the competition in the Q&A and talk themselves out of the spots in the Q&A. So that's why you want to prepare as well for what kind of crazy things could somebody ask me? What kind of things could they ask me that I haven't included? What kind of things that I hope that makes sense to everyone that you really want to, it's a strategy, right? It's a strategy to say, let me do my thing. But anyway, so do it early. Don't wait until 2 nights before and then write up your pitch. Like do it tonight. Do a draft tonight. Do it tomorrow. But sleep on it, you know, add things to it. Look at it during coffee, whatever. And then really look for the questions that you might get asked and things that you are terrified to answer. Does that help?
One thing to add to the perfect practice, since these pitches are only 3 minutes, every person that you see, hey, can I run something past you? It'll take 3 minutes. Practice in front of people. Practice in front of everyone that you possibly can. Then be quiet. What questions do they ask you?
And
Doc,
I would go back to all of the pitch perfects from or the pitch contests from the past because they're all up online. I would go back and watch some and listen to the kinds of questions the judges ask and listen to how people answer them and look at the ones you'll know who won in the top 3 spots or at the end, you know, the big one in November, you can see that one and you'll know who won those 3 and and see how they behaved during the pitch and what things did they say and how did they do it. And you'll when you see a winner, you'll know. And when you see a disaster, you'll know. So go back and look at them And I don't mean every one of them, but if you have some extra time, go look at them and see what that is. The other thing that I would do is set your phone up in your living room or whatever, or your computer or whatever, and record yourself visually and audibly. And then, this is the really spooky part, go back and watch it and listen to it. And pretend that you're coaching that person to win this pitch contest competition. What would you tell them if you watched them and it wasn't you? Once you get past all the vanity, because we all suffer from that. But once you get past it and look at it, you can also set up, I think Zoom has a 40-minute free version or something. You can get online just like this, set up a Zoom thing for yourself and then do your pitch to the Zoom thing and record it. And you'll get used to what it feels like to be doing this in the exact environment that you're going to be doing it. That's a trick of the trade as well.
Yep.
Some
With
people some people stay sitting, but I think last time a few people took my advice and actually stood up, put their I had a rise desk or whatever, a lift up desk, and they had their camera at their level, and then they were standing up, and it made them feel more like they were in control of the room, more like they were doing a presentation, more comfortable. They're not relaxed and sitting down and slouching and all that. They're actually up. They wear the clothes that they want to wear, that's professional and feels good. And they do that. They feel different when they're wearing certain things. Okay, we don't know anything from about the shoulders down, but you know. And so I would practice with those things and say, I feel more professional when I do this, or I feel more comfortable when I do this. But I've video recorded myself 15 times before this pitch, and I've watched it 15 times, and I'm comfortable. I know what I look like, and I know what these people are seeing. So those are my suggestions. Anything else, Tim?
Yeah, to finish my point about practice in front of as many people as you can. Listen to those questions. If multiple people ask the same question, that is something that needs to be addressed. That is what we call a hole in your pitch. So then therein lies what Gary was just talking about in the sense of, okay, I need something, what detracts from the story? I need to enhance the story. And then now we're playing a game of Jenga where it's like we got to rip this part out because we got to put another piece in and still make everything work within 3 minutes. And the trick is not talking faster. It's got to flow naturally. But if you have multiple people asking the same question, there's something that needs to be addressed.
Just an interesting side note. When I was training people and they were using a teleprompter, they would get nervous and the teleprompter would go faster, and they would get more nervous because the teleprompter was going faster. The teleprompter operator is going by your speed. So as they would get nervous, and then the teleprompter it would start speaking faster, and the teleprompter operator would move it faster. And then they would start talking even faster. And then at the end, they're like, I was racing. The teleprompter was going so fast. Yeah, because you're triggering it to go that fast. And as Tim said earlier, along those lines, if it's too fast or it's too slow, I call it the Goldilocks formula. If it's too fast or too slow, it becomes too difficult for me, the listener, to follow, and I'll check out. And you don't want that to happen. And that's why you test it and really test your speed. And I really is even if you go and ask other people to listen to you, set your phone up, record yourself, even while you're pitching for your friends, and then go watch it so that you know. Um, that's just a great tool. Okay, Tim, sorry.
Nope,
I
you're
already
good.
gave this part away.
Yeah, I think that Gary touched on the fact of Q&A. There's going to be 3 questions. Um, each judge will get 1 question. They each ask in succession. So we don't ask a question, answer, ask, answer, ask, answer. It will take too long. You get 2 minutes to answer all three of those questions. We do that because we want to teach you to be able to answer those questions in a succinct manner. We, think about table tennis. You volley back and forth with one another. You answer the question is asked, you answer it, and you move on. That's where Gary's talking about. It's like some people drone on and on and on too long beyond the answer of the question, or not even answer the question, and then they talk themselves out. But we want to teach you tight, succinct answers. Again, answer the questions. As Gary said, what questions scare you? Think about those questions. One thing to add on to what Gary was saying, if you do use an LLM asking for what questions, hey, I'm being evaluated on the problem, the solution, and the market. What questions do you have in those three things? Um, if you really want to narrow that down any further, focus on those questions. You have those, you're ready to go. Um, as we said, people answer their way in, the people answer their way out. I mean, it happens every time. We have a mole in the judge's deliberation room that gives us some feedback about, what happens, and we hear pretty much about that every single time. And then, as Gary said, if you forgot something in your pitch, use that time to address it. I'm not going to give you the full, I'm not going to stare at each other for a full minute. I'll call it after like 15, 20 seconds because it's too uncomfortable for me, but use that time.
As long as you keep talking, then Tim will interrupt you when it is 2 minutes.
That's right. There is our contacts informations. If you do want us to review your pitch, make sure that you realize that Gary and I have lives. I'm extremely busy. Don't send it to me an hour before or the day before and expect to get something back. It's just not going to happen. Um, but we'll give you feedback. We'll give you some things to think about. We do that with everybody. That's just an added bonus to what we do, and we're there to help.